By default, Tableau uses aggregated numeric data in your charts. You'll see sum, average, and similar aggregations appearing on field indicators as you use measures in your worksheet. The underlying data source performs these aggregations itself, and then sends the results back to Tableau. All Tableau has to do is display them. Here's a sample crosstab showing sales by year and region. I'm going to display both row and column grand totals by using Analysis Totals options. All these numbers are actually being calculated by the underlying data source and returned to Tableau. Tableau just lays them out. But what if I want to perform some other kind of calculation, like calculating a running total that gets bigger as rows or columns progress? Or maybe I want to show what percentage of the row or column grand total each individual cell is. Those types of calculations will require going through the totals a second time to determine what the running total or percent of totals are. These are called table calculations, calculations that Tableau performs itself after aggregated data has come back from the database. Let's convert the existing sum of sales to a table calculation. I'll just display the context menu for the field on the marks card, and choose Quick Table Calculation from the menu. I think I'll do a percent of total. Notice a couple of things. First, the crosstab changes, showing the percentage each cell makes up of the row total. Also, see the triangle icon, the delta, on the field indicator? That means this field is now using a table calculation. But what if I want to see both the table calculation and the original sum on the crosstab at the same time? Well, I'll just double-click Sales again. This invokes Measure Names and Measure Values, adding both the sum of sales and the percent of total sales to the crosstab. I think I'll reorder the fields in the Measure Values box so that the sum is on top. Okay, now maybe I want to change the table calculation to show the running total of sales instead of the percent of total. There are a couple of ways of doing that too. If I display the context menu for the table calculation field, remember the one with the delta, I can change the quick table calculation to something else. But I think I'll edit table calculation instead. This dialog box shows more options. I would have seen these if I would have added a table calculation instead of doing a quick table calculation in the first place. I'll change the calculation type to running total, and leave the Summarize Values Using dropdown set to Sum. I could do a running average, minimum, or maximum here if I wanted to. And I'll leave the Running Along option as is for now. I'll come back to that. Now we see a running total across each row. The number gets bigger until it equals the row total. Then it starts over again for the next row. The across the row resetting at each new row part may get you thinking. What if you want to have the totals run down columns instead of across rows? Or what if you don't want the running total to reset for each row or column? That is what the Running Along option I said I'd come back to is about. The direction of the table calculation and the scope of the table calculation, when it were reset, can be set in the Table Calculation dialog box. So I'll edit the table calculation again, and this time choose Table Across then Down as the Running Along choice. Now the running total still gets bigger as it moves across rows, but doesn't reset for each new row. Let's try Table Down. Now the running total is getting bigger as it goes down the column, resetting for each year. Let's try another option. Instead of editing the table calculation, I'll choose Compute Using and choose Table Down then Across. Now the running total still gets bigger as it moves down each year column, but doesn't reset for new years. You're starting to get the idea of the direction and scope options you can choose when creating or editing a table calculation. Experiment with some of your own, and have a look at Chapter 7 in the book and the sample workbook for more examples. The crosstab example is a great way to get the feel for table calculations. You can see both the original measure and the table calculation side by side to see how various direction and scope options behave. But table calculations certainly aren't limited to crosstabs. They work for any type of chart. Let's create a chart showing total shipping cost by year. Shipping cost went up a bit between 2010 and 2011, and way up between 2012 and 2013. But it's a little harder to tell what the change was from 2011 to 2012. I'd love to add a second chart below this one to show the percent difference from the previous year. That would clear up the 2011 to 2012 question. Remember that I have to change an existing measure to a table calculation. So I'll just add shipping cost to the rows shelf again. Now I have two charts that look just the same. All I have to do now is change the second shipping cost field on rows to a table calculation. Let's use a quick table calculation to display the percent difference. Aha! Now it's pretty clear the shipping costs dropped between 2011 and 2012, but less than 10%. The upward rise to 2013 is over 40%, though. In case you wonder about the null indicator and lack of mark for 2010, think for a second. Since there is no data from 2009 to compare to 2010 to determine the percent difference, nothing shows for 2010. That missing percent difference is called a null. There are several ways to deal with this, but here it's probably best to just leave it as is. I'll right-click on it and choose Hide Indicator. There's one other quick thing I want to show you about table calculations. If you edit an existing table calculation, look at the Customize button. If I click it, I actually see some underlying Tableau formula code that generates the table calculation. Now, this is pretty advanced stuff, but you can either modify the table calculation here to create a new calculated field, or copy the table calculation code to the clipboard to use in another calculated field. Look through Chapter 7 in the book and go through the sample workbook. You'll get an idea of the power that table calculations add to Tableau.